Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Tech Sharmit podcast. Today, I am here with another special guest, Heather Cole, who has joined us all the way from United States of America. If I talk about Heather, then she is an entrepreneur, lawyer, technologist, and a certified high performance coach that learned to honor her struggles and is now teaching business owners and executives the profitable action steps for the growing business. Not only this, as an IBM champion, she is consistently contributing for the IT industry. So, today in this episode, we are going to talk about her professional journey and her contributions as well. But before we start, I would like to thank Heather for joining us today in this episode. And now I request you to please initiate the discussion by telling us something about yourself.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Yeah, so I'm Heather Cole. I am currently living in Breckenridge, Colorado. And my journey started at a very young age. My parents had a software company. And I don't know if anyone's worked in a small business before, but if you're forced as a kid to work in that business, you vow that you're never going to work in that industry ever again. And here I am, we'll just say many years later, and now I'm in the technology and software industry. So uh, I focus primarily in finance. I started my company, Lodestar Solution, 20 years ago when candidly there weren't a lot of women in tech.
Yeah.
And the journey has been like almost any journey that feels like it's really worthwhile. It's been a little bit of a roller coaster ride, but I wouldn't change a bit of it.
Okay. And that's the reason like why other women are also looking you towards you as an inspiration because they also want to make their career in the industry as a strong woman. So they all are looking towards you as inspiration. Okay. So let's talk a bit about your journey like from beginning. Like so can you please start by sharing your journey in the data analytics and the business area? Like what initially sparked your passion for the transforming organizations through the data?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, my parents had a software company. And so, as a kid, I grew up training people, but primarily old traders. So, my dad wrote some of the first software code to track the futures market in a real time basis. Prior
Okay.
to that, he was a VP of finance. So, he saw the need to have technology track the futures market and the commodities. And so, he wrote code for that, like nights and weekends. And that started his business. Well, in any family run business, it's all hands on deck. So I started literally training very wealthy men how to use computers back in the 80s and actually how to use analytics. Now, at the time, I despised it. Like, I was like, I don't want to do this. But I was really good at it. And so I went to school. I went to Iowa State University and I studied finance and computer science. And I vowed never to be in technology. And yet I was still really good at the number side. So I started my journey kind of through the finance realm and started my own company because I always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. I saw
Okay.
my dad have the flexibility of lifestyle and the freedom, sometimes working too many hours, however. And I was like, I want that life. And so I really started to plot out, and I recommend everyone do this, where I wanted to be in life, not just what I wanted for a career, but what
Yes.
I wanted for a lifestyle. And I mean, we're talking a very long time ago when people didn't work remote. And 20 years ago, I started Lodestar Solutions because you see, I had been working as a consultant, like many of you maybe, for another company, and they made me all these promises and they didn't deliver. Has anyone else been in that situation? Right. And so I was just one day, I was just done. I was like, I could do this for myself. And I had always had this vision and journey or idea in my life that I wanted to be able to live in Colorado in the mountains in the summertime, and I wanted to live on the beach in the wintertime.
Yeah.
And so I realized when I started my own company, I could create that. And
Yes.
so
Perfect.
really it was kind of a like what are you good at and what kind of lifestyle that got me where I am today.
Yes. Okay. All right. And as per the research, I think initially you thought that success was not just a matter of reading the right books. So, what was the turning point that shifted your approach to coaching and the high performance strategies?
Yeah. So initially, as a woman in tech, I had that little voice, that imposter syndrome that says you're not good enough. You're
Yeah.
playing in a man's world. This kind of was my mindset. And I thought I had to read all the books and work twice as hard as anyone else to be on parity. And I got really stressed out, like
Yes.
really stressed out. I was working nights and weekends. I was unhealthy. I wasn't working out. And like I almost had that breaking point, if you've ever had that in your life, where I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I wanted to go back to when I was in college and I was the checkout girl at the Target store, like something simple. And I realized something had to shift. And when I realized that, who said I have to be the best? Who
Yes.
said maybe I can add the most value? I realized that it wasn't about reading all the books. It was about having the soft skills and having the network to succeed. And that for me was like a paradigm shift. And when I realized it's not just about how smart you are, but how much value and how you can connect the dots, it was like, whew, this is way easier and a lot more fun.
Yes. Okay. So, being an inspirational leader for many other women, what piece of advice would you like to share with those women who wanted to start their career in the IT industry in the year of 2024?
So I encourage every woman, if you're a woman and you have a teenage daughter, encourage them to think about technology.
Yes.
Women do really well in this industry. I'm a
Yes.
big believer that great projects have a mix of diversity of people from different countries, from different genders, because candidly, men and women, we think differently.
Yes.
And women, we kind of look at everything. If you've ever heard of the hunter gatherer type mentality, right? We look at everything and what's moving. And I think it's our nature to be able to do that. And as a result, we're really good in technology and it
Yes.
can create the lifestyle you want where maybe you want to raise kids and work. And today, with how technology is set up, it's actually quite easy to do that.
Yes, and I personally agree with you on this point that yes, really, women are doing really good thing in the IT industry because being a podcaster, I also interviewed various women who are really doing a great job. And like, in fact, there are few things they have delivered which is not even expected from them. Like, because they are doing really good thing, right? Without any foundation, they started from their scratch and then they are leading the world. So that is really very inspiration for all of us. So, and you are also doing the same kind of work, like you're not only doing it for your organization but you are doing all for those students, especially those girls as well who wanted to make their career. So you are playing a multiple role for the industry and for the society, so that's a great thing.
I actually think that that's for especially those of us in technology, women that maybe on the older scale, I think it's an obligation we have. You see, when we were coming up in tech, we didn't think there were multiple seats at the table. There was
Yeah.
very rarely a woman in the room. In my computer science classes in school, I was the only woman. And so
Okay.
we always were kind of fighting each other for space. And I think the world has changed, thankfully, and now there's plenty of room. So, as an older woman in this industry, it's time for us to reach down and help the younger women and
Yes,
the
right.
other groups that don't have that might be a little bit more disadvantaged, help them kind of come up as fast as possible.
Yes, yes. And everyone should do this kind of thing because they know like the path they have traversed in order to achieve such thing. So it's a time to give back to all those who need a helping hand. So that's a great thing. Okay. Now I would like to talk bit about your experience as a certified high performance coach. So what inspired you to become the certified high performance coach, and how has this shaped the way you work with the mid market clients?
Yeah. So again, I think some of the best journeys are on accident. I had actually gone to a Tony Robbins conference. If anyone knows who that is, he is a massive man, super tall, big motivational speaker worldwide.
Okay.
And I went to one of his conferences because a friend asked me. I wasn't really into that stuff, but I was like, okay, I'll be supportive as a friend and we'll go. And I got there and I watched Tony Robbins talk to over 5,000 people and get them to make the changes they desired in their life. And I was
Okay.
like, literally mind blowing. Like I grabbed my journal and I started feverishly writing. I want to be the Tony Robbins of data and analytics. I want to help people make the change they want in their corporations, like wherever their starting point in their journey is. And so through that, I invested in one of Tony's packages. And with it came coaching. Now, again, I grew up thinking I had to learn everything on my own and that maybe coaching was a sign of weakness. And so I had this very bad mindset, but the package included coaching. And so I was like, okay, I paid for it. I'm going to take it. And oh my goodness, I got this coach and she held me accountable for the goals I wanted to do. So, for example, I had a goal for 15 years every year on my list. It's like, this is the year I'm going to write a
Okay.
book. 15, 14 years later, this is the year. 15 years later, this is the year. And then I got this coach. And she's like, what is one of your big, bold goals that you've been thinking about doing for years and never done? I'm like, write the book. She held me accountable and I got the book done within a couple months. And I was like, oh, this coaching stuff works. But so I was like, okay, let me go get it, become a coach. Because
Yeah.
again, my goal was to be the Tony Robbins of data and analytics to help implement change. So I thought, let me learn the frameworks and the methodologies to help people do that. And ever since that time, I've implemented that with my clients. Like a lot of the techniques that we use for our frameworks to get them successful in analytics really come out of the coaching industry and techniques on collaboration.
Yes, right. Okay. And during research, like I found that you always emphasize the importance of soft skills and influence in the IT and finance. So, how do these elements play a vital role in the successful data and analytics transformation?
Yeah. So soft skills, when I again started on this journey, I'm an introvert, guys. Like I candidly, I want my dog, I want the woods, I want a book, I don't want people. And I
Okay.
went into finance and technology thinking, this is great. I don't really have to talk to people. Like I can play with numbers, I can stay on the computer. And then somewhere along the world, the world has changed. AI automation is taking on a
Yes.
lot of stuff we do. And now, as a technologist, what's the most important thing for us to do is to be able to communicate our great ideas with the people
Yes.
that don't understand technology, right?
Yes.
To be able to tell stories, to tell analogies. I always look at it, if I can explain technology to my mom, my 80 something year old mother, then I
Mhm.
know how to explain it. And so it really made me realize that the you can be great at technology, but your ideas aren't going to get heard. But if you
Yes.
want to become influential, you want to be that thought leader, you've got to work on your soft skills in how do we communicate, how do we present, and how do we make sure that we inspire others to not fear technology.
Yes, and you know what? Like just with this example, you have shared a great tip to all those who are working in IT industry. Because being an IT industry member, like we are developing a product, but at the end we have to deal with the customers. We have to deal with clients. So if they are not able to understand those technical complex things, then we need a communication skill for sure to explain the thing in a layman terms. As you mentioned that if someone is interacting with a older person or a student or a young child, so they must know what you are trying to say and why you have developed that kind of product. So that would be a beneficial thing for all of us, like soft skill is one of them. So that's a thing. And if we talk about your purpose, which is about to elevating the data analytics and the people who deliver them to change the world, So what does that mean to you, and how do you envision for the impact, for this particular impact?
Yeah, like I said, I stumbled across my journey and
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't always easy. Um, there was a lot of fear, like a lot of fear. Presenting in front of the first time I presented in a room of over 500 people, I thought I was going to die. I was like, oh, and I knew I was going to trip on stage, but I didn't. But being able to help others realize that fear means you're going to do something great. That kind of anxious feeling where you're starting to doubt yourself, it only shows up when you're stepping up to the next level and challenging yourself. So for me, I want to help everyone feel comfortable in the uncomfortable and be able to elevate them. But even more so, so when I do executive coaching, I have a rule. Whatever I teach people, I expect them to go teach it to their teams so that
Yeah.
we cannot just rise one person, but raise the entire organization all at once.
Okay. All right. Okay. So here I want to ask you one question, which is again related to data analytics. So if someone is listening today and wants to level up their data analytics capabilities or inspire their team, maybe, so what's the first actionable step you would like to recommend to all those persons?
Yeah, that question is a simple one for me because there is
Mhm.
one most important thing that is it's common sense but not common practice, and
Okay.
that is in your organizations, go first and foremost, find out what the strategic goals of the organization are. Now,
Mhm.
this seems common sense, but most people cannot clearly articulate the strategic goals.
Yes.
So if you
Right.
think about what we're doing in data and analytics, our job is to take data and present it into a format that others can make good decisions, especially the executives. Now,
Yes.
those decisions should help the organization achieve those strategic goals. But here's the thing, if we in data and analytics do not know what the strategic goals are, how the heck are we supposed to deliver something that will help them make the better decisions? So, your first goal, and don't feel bad if you don't know the answer today. I've
Yeah.
surveyed last year, I was presenting at a CFO conference, and we had over 100 people in the room. And I asked how many could clearly articulate the strategic goals. It was 4%, only four
Okay.
out of 100. There's a CFO. So go ask this question. And once you do, you'll be able to guide what you do. If you've ever had a situation where you built a dashboard or something, you gave it to someone and they never use it, it's because it wasn't aligned.
Yeah.
It's not your work. It was the misinformation. So that by far, go do that today, everybody in data and AI.
Okay. And you often mention the importance of owning struggles as well on the path to the success. So can you share some of the most important lessons that you have learned through your own struggles and how like they have shaped your career?
Yeah, I think the struggles always come, as I said earlier, when you're trying something new.
Yes.
And I have a friend that calls it deep work. Everyone's like, when you succeed at something, they're like, oh, you're so lucky, oh, you have the greatest job, right? Like there's this thing called luck, like apparently. But have you ever noticed that behind every luck that there's a heck of a lot of work? It's, honoring the struggle is reading all the classic books like How to Be Influential, and there's some great books out there, testing things, being okay with not being right. Now, I don't like the word failure because I don't believe in it. I think
Yes.
we don't have failures. We have learning experiences. And as long as you frame the things that didn't quite go as planned and you honor that struggle as a learning experience, you're going to grow and you will be successful.
Yes, and that's a great and greatest advice for everyone like who started their career just now, because we all face day by day challenges. It is not that like we are not facing those kind of issues. Everyone is facing. In fact, like in every podcast, I kept this question just to discuss like how the experts are taking those obstacles. The way you just mentioned that if you are taking time, it's fine. like we are in a learning phase, so we can take and we can accommodate those time in order to learn something new. And there is nothing like failure, like we have to grow day by day. So that's a great tip that you have shared with all of us. So that's a great thing. Okay, so Heather, like now we will talk bit about your own motto, which is life, live life as imagined, is inspiring. So how do you encourage clients to incorporate this kind of philosophy, especially those who might feel stuck or constrained in their work?
Yeah, I love this motto. It's actually from Thoreau, but the author. But it's so much about when I used to struggle with happiness. I actually went through a time in my life was I was quite depressed. And I
Okay.
realized that I control my happiness, but I have to imagine my life and then live that life. And
Yes.
one of the best things that I've done, and you guys can all do this, is every year on my birthday, is I grab a piece of paper and I write a letter to myself as if it's 1 year in the future. And
Okay.
I write it as if I've just accomplished all these amazing things. Like maybe it will say, this year I wrote my third best-selling book on blah, 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 blah. And I write it in very much detail. And what it
Mhm.
does, it makes me visualize that life that I imagine, and you'd be amazed. And I then take it, put it in an envelope, I seal it, and I write the date of 1 year forward. And on my birthday, I get to open it up and I get to
Okay.
read it. And it's like, oh my gosh, I did that, and I did that, and I did. Now there's some things I don't get done, but maybe they were no longer important. But
Yes.
try that. That's the best way to start living your life as you imagine it.
Yes, and manifestation is also a kind of thing. Like if you are thinking negatively, it might happen. Like you might go in the wrong track. So it's better to manifest the thing in the right way. And the practice which you just share, that it's a better thing. Like on every birthday, you can create your own notes, and then you can check it 1 year later. So for sure, like you will find that there are many things that you have already achieved. So that's a
Mm-hmm.
great practice, and manifestation for sure is going to help you, because it's somewhere like always God share all those thoughts in your mind which you are able to achieve. So it's a better way to try to grab them and in a positive manner. Okay, so my next question is, like we all know, like you are doing you are playing a role of mentor as well for many of us, right? So but my question is, like, who are some of the people you credit as a key influence in your professional growth, and what unique qualities did they bring into your life?
Yeah, so obviously the first one would be my mother. I
Okay.
think you got to credit your mom, right? But as a kid, I struggled. I couldn't even read until I was 10 years old. I was on the slow track. My brain didn't work quite like everyone else's. And my mother was always my greatest cheerleader. And she'd be
Mhm.
like, what's the biggest hurdle? That's what you're going to go over. Like she was absolutely, to this day, we kind of joke about it because at one point I flunked chemistry in college. And after I registered for an honors chemistry course, because my mother said, challenge yourself.
Okay.
So we have a running joke about challenging yourself now. But absolutely, mom. And also my husband, Gary Lafferty. So Gary coaches technologists on how to present, how to do webinars, how to present on
Okay.
stage. And I thought I was a good speaker in tech, but I got to tell you, let's be honest, most speakers in tech are not that great.
Yeah.
They get into the weeds, they don't inspire. And one day I shot this video and I thought it was awesome. And I wanted confirmation. So I gave it to my husband and I said, watch my video, give me some pointers. And I thought he'd say how awesome I was. And he said, oh, we have a lot of work to do.
Okay.
And since then, he's really helped coach me on my style, on how I engage the audience. So he's been a huge help. And the third person is Chris Orlando, who is one of my dearest friends in the world. Chris and I met getting certified as a high performance coach, gosh, I think 8 or 9 years ago. And since then, every Tuesday, we have a standing call. We call each other. We're like, what are you working on? What are you doing? Why didn't you get that done last week? We hold each other accountable. And I really encourage every one of you, if you do not have an accountability buddy, go
Mhm.
find yourself a Chris. He's been amazing.
Okay. All right. Now, let's talk a bit about your advocacy activities. Like as an IBM champion, what are all those projects on which you are currently working on, or maybe you are planning to do in the upcoming years?
Ooh, that's a long list. It's it's all in my letter to myself. But
Okay.
I am for the next year. I just started recording a podcast, and that
Mhm.
will be launched very shortly. And it's called Corporate Finance Trailblazers: Mastering
Okay.
Growth, Leadership, and Cash Flows. So that will be coming out shortly. I also am looking and starting to write another book.
Okay.
This one will be a coaching book geared towards executives and how they can empower their teams. And there'll be a special chapter on how do we empower and inspire data and analytics folks to really add more value. Because I actually think half the time, as a data and analytics professional, it's the executives that get in our way. So
Yeah.
we're going to be doing that as well. And then also still doing a lot of mentoring.
Okay. And like you have already authored some of the books, right? So which one is
Yes.
one of your favorites? I know like they all have equivalent and they all have good set of skills that you have shared through your expertise. But which one is the most favorite to you?
I think obviously it's like a first child. It's a first book because as I said earlier, it took me 15 years to actually sit down and write it. And it's
Okay.
called Business Intelligence Bullseye. When I wrote it, I actually went to a class on how to become a best-selling author because I needed somebody to hold me accountable in addition to my coach to make it happen and give me frameworks to write that book and get it published faster. And so that is probably my favorite book. It also has a special place in my heart because at that same conference, I met my husband. So
Okay.
you never know. You put yourself in the right circles and you never know what's going to happen.
All right. Okay. All right. So like we have discussed on various things, your technical expertise and your influence on the society. So even though like there are many other things that we can discuss here, but just because of the limitation of time, I would like to ask my last question, and it is related to your hobbies. So what hobbies or activities do you enjoy outside the work, or like how do they help you to recharge and stay active?
Yeah. So my hobbies, I'm a huge outdoor lover. So I
Okay.
do a lot of hiking in the winter. I'll do snowshoeing if I'm in the mountains. But here's the thing: when I do that, I'm not just enjoying nature, which I absolutely do. I take my dog, but I'm also almost always listening to an audible book. So
Okay.
I love learning. I try and do 3 or 4 books a week. And so using Audible, listening at a high speed as I'm hiking. The other thing I like to do is I know this sounds crazy, but I love to find like old furniture that someone just put on the side of the road with a free sign and then refinish it into something cool. And again, while I'm like sanding and fixing wood and stuff like that, I'm listening to Audible books almost all the time. So I think I'm a junkie.
Okay, so would you like to suggest any audiobook for others, like who are also interested in such type of things? Any books, audiobooks?
I You want some book titles that I like?
Yeah.
Okay, so right now I'm re-listening to a book called Oversubscribed. Great book about marketing your business or your
Okay.
skills. The other book that I am there's a great book actually everyone should that wants to get ideas to stick is called Made to Stick by Chip and Dan Heath. Chip
Mhm.
and Dan Heath also wrote another fabulous book that I recommend to all my clients, and that is called Switch.
Okay.
If you want to be influential, Chip and Dan Heath write some great books on how to get your ideas out there.
Okay. All right. So thank you so much, Heather, for joining us in this episode and for sharing so much information, whether it's about books or the expertise or the way you work towards your life. So it's all, I'm pretty much sure that these things are going to resonate with many listeners. So thank you once again. And I hope you also enjoyed the discussion.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And if anyone wants to reach me on LinkedIn, do so. I'd love to connect.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, thank you once again and have a good day. Bye.
Thank you.